Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to be showing you part 5 of our YouTube Tuff Shed kitchen build. Luckily, I haven't burned it down yet and I haven't been to the hospital, not even once. So you ready? Let's get into this. Okay, so here's everything we've done since episode 4. First, we finished wiring up all the outdoor receptacles. We only have 2 of them, but it was pretty fun because those are our first 2 receptacles that we've actually finished wiring. We can't put any of the switches or receptacles on inside of the studio just yet because we still have to get the drywall up first. Yes, I know I put this receptacle in upside down. I could give you a story about how I did that on purpose, but that would just be a big lie. I just straight messed up and had to fix that off camera. Next, I went on to painting all of the exposed PVC. Bare PVC doesn't hold up very well in the elements, so if you paint it, it does a lot better, not to mention it makes it look a lot nicer too. Right here, I'm painting the PVC for the water supply and also for our French drain system. In addition to the paint, the water supply is going to get a little bit of insulation wrapped around the outside of it as well. And that's just to make sure we don't have water freezing in there or anything like that in the winter. Which it happens to be right now, and it's pretty darn cold outside. Next, I went on to finishing up all of the wiring for my overhead LED lighting. I got 12 lights total going into the ceiling, and each one of them has one of these little boxes. Those boxes all have a little switch on them where I can select what color temperature I want, and I just set them all to daylight, and I'm probably just going to leave them there like that. These are all going to be on an Alexa-enabled smart switch, so I'll be able to turn them on and off and do dimming functions all with voice commands. In addition to wiring up the LED lights, I went through the entire studio and stripped and prepped all the wires for all the receptacles. Also, I ran some conduit protected wiring that I'm going to be using inside of the peninsula. That's going to be a little bit of a pain in the neck to drywall around, so I'll probably end up having to take that back off when I put the wallboard up, but that's not really a big deal. It kind of gets it out of the way for now. In addition to wiring all that stuff in the studio, I also wired in a whip to the AC disconnect for the air conditioning unit outside when that goes in next month. I probably could have waited a little bit on that, but I got a lot of crap laying around inside the studio that I just don't want sitting in there right now, so at least that gets that out of my hair for now, right? The next thing I did was I framed in a little doorway area for attic access. The only reason I'm really doing that is so I have some way to access the damper for the makeup air system. That thing's got a little motor on it, and I don't know exactly how long that's gonna last. Better to have some kind of access to it now than having to cut a hole in my ceiling later, right? The next thing I did was I pulled all of my HDMI cables for all of my cameras. I've got 7 total cameras that are gonna be placed all around the studio, in addition to 1 wire for a television that's going to be hanging on the wall above the peninsula. Those cables range anywhere between 10 feet up to 40 feet, so I couldn't really just throw up conduit and run the cables later or anything like that. Well, I guess I sort of could have, but it would have been a major pain in the butt trying to pull the HDMI cables through that after the fact. And knowing my luck, I'd get one stuck in a wall someplace and then I'd be pissed. One thing I really need to do before I close up the walls is to test each one of those cables and make sure I don't got any bad wires or anything. That would really suck if I get done and hook up some cameras and one of those cables is dead or something like that. Next, I took some expansion foam and went around to all the receptacles in the studio and just filled in all the little gaps and holes where the wires come into the boxes. That way I can make sure there's a really good air seal inside of here and I don't get any drafts. The next thing I did was put strapping up on the ceiling. You can see that I'm putting that up perpendicular to my ceiling joists. There's 2 reasons I'm putting that up. First, it makes it a lot easier to put all my insulation up because since now I've got sort of a grid pattern up there, a lot of the insulation is going to be able to sit right on top of it, no problem. And second, and also more importantly, it's going to mean that when I put up my drywall for the ceiling, that I'm not going to have to worry about where each piece of drywall ends. They're not going to have to butt together on a joist or anything like that because I've got the strapping running the other direction. And that is also the direction I'm going to run the drywall on too. In theory, this is going to work really great, but remember, I've never done this before, so I feel like it's just as likely for this to be perfect as it is for the ceiling to fall in and crush me recording my first video. In any case, it might be entertaining for you, or not. The next thing I did was a little bit of an afterthought. I've been thinking about putting a pot filler in over the cooktop, and at first I wasn't gonna do it, and then really at the last minute I decided, why not? It's kind of a neat thing, and if I try to do it later, it's gonna cost thousands to do it. Since I'm doing it right now, it's only costing me 20-30 bucks worth of PEX and fittings, plus whatever the fixture costs. So why not, right? The next thing I put in was also a little bit of an afterthought too. I had the installation coming in the next couple of days, and I figured maybe I'll go ahead and throw in a whole bunch of blocking. You can see that going in here, and it basically lines up to the top of the lower cabinets. That way the cabinets have a long continuous area that you can screw them into. It's a lot more convenient to have them that way than it is to try to hit all of the studs every time. And since it is a Tuff Shed, the studs aren't necessarily exactly 16 inches on center. So if I don't do this, I can end up with screws that just go through drywall and don't hit the studs at all. Or worse yet, I can hit plumbing or electrical or something like that. In addition, for the blocking for the cabinets, I put in some additional stuff for the range hood, a couple of pieces for the upper cabinets, some for the pot holder, the air conditioning, and also the television. By the way, if this is your first time here and you want to learn some cool new recipes, get some great cooking tips and tricks and all sorts of other kitchen related things, then start now by subscribing to the channel and clicking the notification bell so you never miss a thing. After I got that done, it was on to insulation. This has by far been the biggest pain in the neck so far on this entire build. Since it's made out of fiberglass, you have to wear long sleeves, long pants, gloves, a mask, a hat, and some eye protection as well. Since I need my eyeglasses to see and I can't really see through the goggles, I had to just kind of make do with just my regular eyeglasses. So I ended up getting a lot of glass fibers into my cheeks and stuff like that, which was really interesting trying to wash all that stuff out every night. It took about 12.5 hours of total time to get all this insulation in. Some of it was because, like I told you before, the stud bays aren't exactly 16 inches on center, which is what the insulation is really designed to go into. So I had to cut a lot of it down, and I had to add extra pieces to other areas in order to get it to fill in the stud bays all the way. And for the ceiling, it was a little bit harder to get all this stuff to sit flat than I expected, just because I had to run it around wires and stuff like that, which usually means you gotta split the insulation in half and run wire in between insulation layers and things like that. The blocking made it a little bit more difficult too, because you gotta kind of cut around all that stuff, and then you gotta stuff some insulation in behind all those pieces. It was especially interesting in areas around wires, because again, you gotta split that insulation in half and kind of slide it in behind on one side and in front on the other. And every time I did that, there were more glass fibers in the air, so whoopee. Once I got done though, it came out really surprisingly nice. As you can see right here as I pan around the inside of the studio. I got all this done just in time because I got drywall coming in 3 days. You can see the studio is really coming together and we're way ahead of schedule. By the time we do our next video, we should have all the drywall in, the mudding finished, the priming and painting, and hopefully we'll have all the lighting and the air conditioning done as well. We're still targeting getting this thing done before the summer, and it looks like we might be able to get this done in April or May. I can't wait for you to see the finished studio. It's gonna be awesome. If you like this video, you might like this playlist right here where we have all of the different parts of the studio build broken down into episodes. Hopefully when this is all done and we're recording out here, it'll be kind of fun to look back and see how we put it all together. Well, that's it for now. I hope to see you back again here really soon. And until that time, I'm Joe, and I hope you have a phenomenal day. Take it easy.